Hi, this is Elizabeth Gearhart. I'm here with Caryn Kopp, the Chief Door Opener. Caryn has a special business you probably haven't run across before, this kind of type of business. She opens doors for business owners so that they can get to the decision makers of the businesses that they want to do business with. And she has a very special way of doing it. It's amazing. Hi, Caryn.
Hi, it's so nice to see you.
Good to see you. So what's different during quarantine about?
Oh, well, there are a lot of things have changed over the last couple of months, and what most business leaders are realizing is that they have to do business development differently. The conferences, the trade shows, the in-person networking is not happening now, and yet it's very important for people to meet new prospects. There are a lot of business leaders out there whose pipelines have dried up, and they need to be able to find new ways to sell, new people to sell to. And without being able to go to the conferences and trade shows, how are they doing that? They may be doing the business development themselves, or they may have salespeople, but in both cases, a lot of people are struggling with how do they make these connections now. And what our company does is we do executive level door opening. We get the door open with the executives that our clients need to meet so that they could start the business development process. It's an outsourced service, so they can outsource this difficult part of the process to us. We've been opening doors virtually for over 20 years, and we represent our client as if we were a member of our client's team and get the door open. We use very senior level business developers to do this, many of whom were previously corporate decision makers, so they can hold their own in a conversation with decision makers so that our client can get these meetings that they might not be able to get for themselves.
And then do you give your clients intel on these people, sort of like, this is kind of what the feeling I get is, this is what this person wants to hear, this is what they need to know from you?
Yes, absolutely. We take very detailed notes from our conversations with our clients' prospects, and we put together an appointment report so that our client knows everything that's been discussed. They know the messaging that was used that piqued the prospect's interest to begin with. They know the back and forth that there was with the prospect. And then what's happening these days is that all the meetings are virtual right now because nobody's having in-person meetings. And when the meetings are virtual, our door opener is on the meeting too. So it becomes a really nice warm handoff. Our door opener opens up the meeting, introduces the prospect to our client, reminds everybody why they're there, and then turns the discussion over to our client. We also will prep our client, not just on the meeting as to what they need to research and what questions might be better to ask than others, but we'll also remind them about the best practices associated with having good outcomes from virtual prospect meetings, because not everybody is comfortable having virtual prospect meetings. And actually, in the last, I'd say, month or so, 90% of the prospect meetings we're having are on video. The prospects want it. And not every seller and every business leader is comfortable doing that. So we'll give them a little bit of guidance on how to do that well, and then walk them through that process. Of course, the most important point about having a prospect meeting is to get another one. So you want to ask for a date and time at the end. Sometimes our clients forget to ask for it. If our clients forget to ask for it, the door opener will chime in and ask for the date and time for the next meeting.
So I met you a few times, but one of the more recent, a few years ago, was at the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America.
Yes.
So you've been on that list. You also have a number of other awards for the work that you have done, and people can find them on your website, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And but you do seem to have a special process that nobody else uses for this type of thing. I've never heard of this before, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
how long does it take? If I came to you today and said, look, I have this video directory, I want to meet the head of YouTube or the decision makers at YouTube to see if they'll buy it for me or if they'll give me a break or whatever, how long would that process take?
Yeah, so to get a client ready to go, we wouldn't just call one decision maker. Why settle on just one. Let's call 50, right? And help you to start the conversations with all 50 of them, knowing that some will say yes now, some will say yes in 3 months, some in 6 months, and some not until next year. But you get that whole pipeline rolling. So to get a door opener program ready to launch, it's a 2-week process, but it's not a full 40 hours for each of those 2 weeks. We need about 40 hours total in over a 2-week time frame. And what we're doing there is we're identifying from a strategic standpoint the who is the right person for you based on the kind of sale that you want. And you may know who that is, you may not know who that is, but we'll provide some strategic guidance. We'll be able to tell you, if you go after these kinds of prospects, it's going to take a longer time. Your sales cycle will be longer. If you add a filter and go after a more narrow group of the right prospects, it's going to take less time. What do you want to do? And then you let us know where you want to focus. From there, we need to develop the prospect list. Our client can either give that to us, or we have researchers on staff. We subscribe to the very expensive prospect list resources that are out there with the good information, so we can assemble the list. We have researchers who are making sure that the right people are still in the right positions and that the email addresses are working, so that when our door openers launch, they're only spending their time on the outreach. They're not spending their time looking for an email address. Also, in those first 2 weeks, we're focusing on developing the right sales message. This is something that people might not develop a sales message at all. Other people might do a fill in the blank script. Those things don't work. What really works is figuring out the most compelling words and phrases that go into conversation. And that's where we're really strong. Our people are exceptionally strong at having conversations with executives. And that is really rare out there, is to find the people who can get the executives on the phone and have a conversation with them that produces an outcome. They're not shut down by objections. We expect them. It's part of it. Great, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the conversation. That's where we're really strong. And this messaging that we do ahead of time is a critical component of saying the right things to the right people. So I've found when you say the right things to the right people, the door's open.
That is so important, because executives don't really have a minute to spare.
That's right.
And if you go fumbling around and wasting their time, they'll never talk to you again, right?
That's right. And I save those messages. I get messages periodically and I save them. I got one from a girl yesterday and she said what her name was and that she really wanted to talk to me. That was it. It's like, I'm not going to call her back. I don't have time for that. So yeah, if you're going to get an executive to either call you back or take your call next time you call, you have to say something that's so compelling that that person would feel that knocking 3 people off his or her calendar and making room for you is the best decision that person's going to make all week. So what are you going to say that's going to produce that? That's what we're really good at doing.
So what kind of companies have you introduced your clients to in the decision-making process, with the decision makers from those companies, to help them land those companies as a client?
So many different, we've represented so many different kinds of clients, B2B, and introduced them into lots of different, I'll give you a bunch of examples. But the thing that unites all of our clients together is that what they sell is fairly large. It's usually north of $50,000 a year. The bigger, the better. And getting those doors open is usually somewhat difficult, or there's a lot of competition. It's more of a consultative sale as opposed to transactional in order to get these doors open. So everything from advertising agencies that are looking to get in with either consumer packaged goods companies, pharmaceutical companies, retailers, and the list goes on, software development companies that want to get in with the big media and entertainment companies. We've supported many different kinds of companies in their desire to get in with large hospital systems, big multi-practice doctors' offices, all different kinds of SaaS platforms that we've represented. We've represented insurance companies and accounting firms and law firms and banks. and what else? All different kinds of digital platforms for selling anything into marketers. We've represented promotional products companies, getting them in with food and beverage, getting them in with insurance. The list just goes on. Meeting planning companies, getting them in with pharma, although their business is very difficult right now. But many different kinds of companies. But like I said, what unites them all is that they sell something big. It's not easy to get in those stores, but that is the path for them to be able to sell more.
That's amazing. And you've had a lot of successes over the years, and you've had to change tacks a little bit because nobody can meet in person right now. But how are things going for you during quarantine?
Yeah, so for us, it's business as usual because we work remotely anyway. We've worked remotely for 20 years. So now I say, welcome to the dark side, everybody. It does work. For all those people who said it doesn't work, it does. It does work, and you can figure it out. So for us, it's business as usual. We are finding prospects actually more available than before. That might surprise you. It's surprised a lot of people, but people are available. They're craving this human communication. They're not craving 150,000 emails, by the way, in their email box. So make use of the phone. Those people who are making good use and effective use of the phone are getting further. Cell phones are rolling over. Business phones are rolling over to cell phones, and the decision makers are picking them up. They're more interested in discussing what's going to happen in the long term because their short term is very uncertain. And so the changes to vendors, to processes, thinking about different ways that things can be done, they're more open to it now for longer term because they have the space in their short term to think that through. So that's created some opportunities for our clients that didn't exist before. So while there's a lot of things that are challenging associated with this period of time, there's also some silver lining too.
That's wonderful. And I think really what makes you powerful is, one, you do a custom project for every client that comes through your door or across your screen.
That's right.
But I also think the prep work that you do is so important because if you've ever met an executive or a high level person, they want a polished presentation. They want a polished interaction. They don't want somebody who doesn't know what they're going to say next, or fumbling around, or giving them useless information, or asking them for things that they can't provide. So that part is super important. And I don't think people understand that.
Yes. Well, they certainly understand it if it's happened to them, where they've received a call that's not effective. And so that's the thing. There are appointment setting firms that are out there that hire somebody with a year or two experience in sales, or a career switcher, or an actor with a good voice. That can work if you're trying to get in with a lower level decision maker, like selling coffee to an office manager, and you just need to say, do you need it? Do you need it? Do you need it? And it doesn't matter if many people don't need it and you come across the one who does. But if you need to get in with an executive and explain why something is important to consider changing, right? So even staffing firms is one of the ones I didn't talk about before, but we do a lot of that, and that's a very competitive industry. So if you're going to get in, what is it that you're going to say, and how will you say it? What kind of conversation are you going to have? And I call it the what if conversation. When you get someone on the phone, well, what if it was this way? And what if it was that way, to challenge the status quo thinking? But all of that has to happen sometimes inside of a minute and a half, and you don't get another chance. To have that go well, and to have a prospect feel that you've done your research and that meeting is going to be so valuable to him or her, you need somebody, in my experience anyway, who has this background, this experience, and the DNA in order to be able to hold their own in that conversation. And that is very rare. Those are the only kinds of people we hire here. And we make sure that the messaging is right, the target is right, the person who's doing the work is right, so that our clients can get the outcome that they need, which is the open door to get them on the sales path.
Excellent. And also the video piece that you prep people for, because I know when I started Fireside, it was very difficult because everybody hates to be on video. They hate seeing themselves. They hate the fact that it's sticking around. And so to make people feel comfortable on video by prepping them and telling them some things to do, I think that's another really important piece to it.
It is. And it's not just the video, because like there are image consultants that can help you with video and things like that. That's a small piece of what we do. We don't really focus so much on the lighting and all of that. It is the structure of the conversation. If you only have a half an hour and you have 10 minutes of tech problems, what are you going to do with that 20 minutes in order to make rain out of that conversation and get a next step date and time? Those are the things that we focus on. What are your high gain questions? How do you choose them? If you have two people from your side, what is the interaction that's going to happen between the two people so you don't eat up time that you need in order to get the discussion further? And then we talk about the tech things that could go wrong, that steal time. Things like don't forget to leave a meeting technologically instead of just hanging up the phone, because then other people can see you, hear you, watch your screen, and all of those kinds of things which could go wrong. We talk about those things too.
That's great. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on?
We've talked about a lot of things. We make sure that if somebody needs to get in the door, that they're doing it the right way. I guess the only thing that we haven't touched on is why can't the salespeople who the business leaders hired get all this stuff done? And you would think that if they're in sales, they can get this done, but there's a couple of reasons why it's difficult. And we call it TTD, time, talent, and desire. So sometimes the sellers that you hire are great and they can get the doors open, but if they're successful and they do that, they're busy closing sales and following up with the current clients, selling more, and they don't have time to keep the top of the funnel full with new prospects, new opportunities. So it's a good idea to outsource. Other times you may want to swim upstream. And so the sellers you have may get you in at a certain level, but you may need a bigger level. You may need bigger clientele, and they may not have the talent to get those doors open. We can do that on an outsourced basis. And then the last piece of it is desire. Sometimes people are really good at getting the doors open, but they'd rather put a stick in their eye than do the work. So that's another place where people can outsource that to us. We'll get the doors open, make it easier, and then the company can take it from there.
Well, that's excellent. So how do people find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me through the website, which is koppconsultingusa.com, K-O-P-P, consultingusa.com. Go to the contact us page and we will be happy to talk with you about what's happening in your business. We're happy to share as much information as you need. And then if you need the door opener service, we could talk about that too.
Wonderful. Well, it's just been so nice catching up with you, Caryn.
It's great. Always great catching up with you, Elizabeth.
So I know you're busy. I'm going to let you go. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.